guys, and welcome back to my channel, The Journey to Justice. Letecia Stauch. In the affidavit, now, Letecia returned home at 20 after 2 in the afternoon of the 27th, 2020. By the time she got out the truck and got into the home, that took a little time, like a few minutes, say. And there was a lot of movement within a while of up and down the stairs, and the door opening and shutting about 10 times. Now, within this time, as we're wondering what she's doing, what is she doing? What is Gannon doing? And what is T doing? I was trying to figure out that myself, and I think there was a lot of chasing around in that home for that time. Now, Gannon could have been trying to get out the door. She stopped him. He tried again. She stopped him. He had the key to the gate because T kept on saying that he had a key. He's the only one with the gate key for the side of the house. He couldn't get out the front door, so he tried to run and get out the gate because he had a key. Now she chased him down and took him back in the house. She chased him around the house, up and down the basement. Now that could have been going on because there was a lot of movement. T also hadn't used her phone for the whole time she'd been out for the 4 hours, and plus a good 25 minutes when she got in the house. Now, as the investigation has gone along, they have determined that Gannon died not long after he returned home. And this may have happened within that time frame before his sister got home from school, because there was a lot of activity going on. I don't know what happened from Gannon getting out of the truck, because we have to assume, and a lot of us think, that he did return home, because they are now stating that this is what happened and this is the time frame that Gannon was killed. So by going by that, all that activity going on with the up and down the stairs, I feel like he was probably being cornered for whatever reason. We don't know exactly why she attacked him, allegedly, in the home, but there doesn't seem to be any blood anywhere other than the basement, near the bed, on the wall, and it all seemed to happen in a corner. corner of the bed, like where his torso was, where his head would be laying. The blood was on the mattress. And leaked on to the carpet, and they found it also on the concrete. Well, then he had to have been there for quite a while for that to have happened. But how was there not blood anywhere else? It's not reported to be so in the affidavit, but they may have left that out. They may have not put everything in the affidavit. So I just find it very hard that all this blood will just be in one place. And all this movement going on at the same time, unless somebody is being chased around. But there's no other blood. And when his sister came home from school, Letecia told her that Gannon was asleep, which this was probably true. He was asleep because he wasn't alive. He wasn't alive, he was asleep, as she puts it. Half truths, the whole truth, or is it a lie? And she also told his sister that Gannon is asleep in her bed. Her bed. Now, is that Letecia's bed? Or is that Gannon's sister's bed? She just said in her bed. But how come there is no blood anywhere else except the basement? So the detectives and everybody else is figuring out that she lied about Gannon being asleep in her bed and she could not see him. So did Gannon's sister ask where her brother was? For Letecia to say Gannon's asleep and you can't see him, she must have asked at some point. But not very long after that, Letecia told her to go out and play. And his sister was seen on surveillance cameras by the neighbors playing on her bike. Who got the bike out of the garage for Gannon's sister? Did Letecia go to the garage, open it up, and get her bike out? Or did she do it herself? Nobody's really saying how that happened. You know, if you're telling the police, or even Letecia telling the police what happened when Gannon's sister came home, you would say, well, she came home and I helped her get the bike out the garage and she went out to play. That would be simple, right? So she's out playing by the home on her bike. And this is why the police say that Gannon was dead at this time. So the police have got theirself or locked theirself in to a time frame of when this happened. Now, sometimes it's a little longer, and sometimes it's a little shorter. But right now, they've locked Gannon's death from the time she got in and before his sister got home from school. Before she went out to play. Now the police, the detectives, have locked themselves in to that time frame. Now, can that be proven? No. Not in my eyes. I don't think so. Unless somebody confesses, that is going to be hard to prove that it happened. And another thing, they're not even 100% sure if he ever came home alive at all. Now, unless they've got some other footage from the other side that they can see him pass her vehicle, that's gonna be hard to prove. But remember, this affidavit was done before Gannon was found in Florida. But they haven't sort of came out with any updates to say anything different. But I'm sure they are going to change it a little bit. Because right now, you can't lock her into that time, even with her lies. Even with her lies. Allegedly. Or half-truths. Now, we all know when she's talking, she is telling the truth, but in a roundabout way. You know, like that story she told about her father, stepfather, being killed. I mean, that was true, but it happened in 2004. It happened a long, long time ago, but that story is true because it did happen in her lifetime. Now, with all the movements going on in that home, it may have been Gannon trying to get away. It may have been up and down the stairs, but if she is or did hit him with something, there is no blood splatter that's been reported anywhere in the house. And there's no reports of gunshots that anybody heard. Would they hear it? I don't know. There is a person that lives next door, I think next door or the house next to it, that she's home all the time. Would she hear a gunshot from the basement? Where's the gun? Whose gun is it? Does she own a gun? Does Al own a gun? Was his gun at the house or with him? Or at his job? Secured. We don't know whose gun it is right now and who it's registered to and what kind of gun was used or anything like that. And maybe a gun was not used at all. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know for certain yet. So she's running around. The sister's outside playing by now. She says he's in her bed. Whose bed, we don't know. There's a lot of blood down in the basement, on his bed, all in the same area. There's missing blankets or sheets that are missing, never been found. But that's not to say they have been found, because when Gannon was found, he might have been wrapped in that blanket. The sheets might be with him. We don't know that yet, because that could be evidence that they are not releasing. Because if they do have the blanket and he was wrapped in a blanket, they're going to match that up from the home, from the photos that Letecia took that very morning. So the police may be keeping that one a secret. As you know, they have a lot of information. They are not releasing a lot of evidence, videos, and things like that. So, and why take a picture or a video, it's pictures, of him bundled up in his bed in the morning? A lot of people are saying because it was for Al, pictures for Al, or to prove something that he had a game, he had his Switch game, Nintendo, on him, and he shouldn't have been playing with it. I mean, why do you need to take pictures of evidence? I'm just saying, if your kid has not followed the rules, wouldn't you think your husband or your wife would just take your word for it? Yeah, he had the game, and he was told not to, but he was playing with it in bed. He snuck it in bed with him. You would just believe a person, right? Well, most people would. I'm just saying if it's that way, do you know what I mean? When people just don't believe what you say. And if that is true, maybe Al just didn't believe a word Letecia was saying anymore. And he wanted evidence of it. Could be that simple. Because their marriage was in trouble, has been in trouble, and we don't know if he has ever told her, look, this ain't working out, we're gonna have to get divorced, or anything like that along them lines. We don't know if that was ever discussed, has been discussed, because apparently the year before, when they were in Alaska, she accused another guy in the military of assault or verbal assault, sexual innuendos, allegations, things like that. So just the year before, she was accusing another man of flirting with her, and God knows what else. And there was an investigation, and apparently it turned out to be false. But in the meanwhile, I think her privileges were taken away, and she had to go back to South Carolina while Al serves his time in Alaska until he can get off the base and be based somewhere else. In the meanwhile, when Letecia said she was traveling back and forth to Alaska on the plane, back and forth, this might be true, is because she wasn't living in Alaska anymore. She had to go back stateside because of all these allegations that she accused this captain or lieutenant of doing. And believe me, military personnel take family very seriously. If you are committing some kind of adultery, or there's accusations against your wife or your husband, whether you're in the military or not, it causes a lot of problems. And they don't want no problems. And the military will deal with it their way. Now, if she lost her privileges because she cannot be trusted on a military base, she will have to go. And off she went. In the meanwhile, maybe she's making these trips because now she has to take the kids to see him in Alaska. How many times she did that? I don't know. But she talks like it's costing her a lot of money when she's not even the one working. Al's working, it's his money. But we don't even know what happened with that, what's the truth. But if you've ever been in the military, like I was a military wife, and so in the Air Force, and so I kind of know what it's like to live on base housing. If you are doing something wrong, they kick you off base housing. They kick you out of the military. They take your privileges away. Just like that. So after that went on, and she's back in Myrtle Beach or South Carolina, wherever she was living, she was looking for a home in Colorado. Because by this time, Al had got some new orders that he will be based stateside in Colorado in the National Guard. Colorado Springs would be his next assignment. Who's looking for a home to live? I don't know if there's base housing in Colorado. There's a waiting list. You can't just get on base housing. but they might not have been able to live on base. So they have to find a house off base, close to where his job is. There's a certain amount of distance that you can only live from a base, because you have to get there if there's emergency in a certain amount of time, say half an hour, 40 minutes. You have to live a certain amount of miles away. So she's looking for this place, and apparently she moved there in the January 2019. Letecia Stauch was never in Colorado Springs in the year 2018. Elle didn't get to Colorado Springs until 2019, in February. And this is the house that they rented, where they were all living. Next, I'll talk about the phone call, the text that Letecia sent her daughter. Now, if you can make this one out, let's try to figure this one out. Now, I don't know where the phone call came before, what happened before, in between, what was going on when Gannon's sister was outside playing. But there's video footage of Harley coming home. She arrived home in her white Volkswagen Jetta at about 16:42 hours, and she picked up her sister. Now, how did Letecia know what her daughter was doing? There must have been some communication between them somehow in between, because so Harley arrives about 6:42 hours and picked up her sister. Then about 16:52, which wasn't long after, 10 minutes, Letecia sent Harley a text message requesting carpet cleaner, trash bags, and some baking soda. But how did Letecia know her daughter was home? Her daughter took Gannon's sister with her. How did she know that the sister was with Harley and they were going to the store, and Letecia texts her to pick up trash bags and baking soda? So there must have been some communication somewhere. Because is she a mind reader? Did she know where her daughter was going? Because, Letecia didn't have her phone on her. It was for 4 hours while she was out. Apparently, she made no other phone or text message to her daughter, only the one that was sent to her just after they left the house. If you want to get hold of Tisha, you have to call me. Gannon, it was supposed to be Gannon texting Harley to say that Tisha didn't have her phone and to call this phone. And that was apparently all that was said on there. And nobody else said there was any other text messages sent to Harley that day, or called Harley that day, spoke to Harley that day, saying, hey, what you doing later? Yeah, when I get home, I'm going to go to the store when I get home. Where's the communication? And then when Letecia got home, she never picked up her phone or switched it on or opened it up for 25 minutes. And when she did, who did she talk to? Who did she call? And how did she know Harley was going to the store and took Gannon's sister with her? So that's only the investigators know if there was any messages other than what we're reading in this affidavit between them both. Because otherwise, she must be psychic. So I was just thinking how that happened. And then plus Letecia said that Gannon went out between the hours of 3:15 and 4 o'clock. One of the stories, he left with a friend. One of the stories, he's sleeping in his sister's bed or her bed. He's in the basement sleeping. Quincy Brown came home with her, from the area of Petco, jumped in her truck. Another story is Eduardo, the Mexican guy, the carpet guy, was laying wait in her home when she got home. And it was him. First off, it was Quincy that kidnapped Gannon. Then it's the carpet guy, the Mexican guy, that had a gun, was raping her, was doing all kinds of things to Gannon. I mean, all these stories, there must have been about 10 in one mouthful. I mean, this is her saying it. We are not making this up. It's coming from her. It's coming from T's mouth. It's coming from messages. It's coming from her talking to strangers on Instagram. It's coming from her messaging people on Facebook, answering people. It's coming from talking to her husband Al on the phone, which was being recorded. Text messages between them. It's coming from T's mouth, her very own words. Everything that T said has been recorded, screenshot, recorded, documented. And with all these people that she was speaking to that befriended her, she didn't know these people, yet she's having conversations with them and they are recording her. Now, who wouldn't know that? Who wouldn't know that they would do such a thing? Then there's the interview with the guy from the channel news, Spencer. It wasn't you know, this interview wasn't made by appointment. It was a spur of the moment that this news crew was hanging around, and she approached them, and they thought, wow, let's do it. So they did it and let her talk once again. And Spencer may have thought that she was going to do a plea for his safe return, and it turned out to be the opposite. It turned out to be about her not being able to go home. She was kicked out the house. She and her daughter didn't have no clothes. Then the story of her shopping and what happened with the detectives. It's all because T never showed up on her appointment that she was supposed to be showing up for, to talk to them. And they chased her down. The keys, her daughter's keys were in her daughter's pocket, and then the next minute they're in her pocket. She talks about, well, if you watch the video, you know what she talked about. She talked about the interview that she did finally do. She didn't go into great detail about it at that time because she was told that she could not say too much about it. But really, she had made up this whole story to them about the most wanted, Mr. Brown, Mr. Quincy, Tyron, or whatever his name is, a third guy, the getaway driver, I guess. And then there's Eduardo, the Mexican guy. Well, of course, she wasn't bringing that up, what she told them in the interview room. She never divulged that she was pregnant, she was having a heart attack, or she was having a panic attack, and she was rushed to the hospital by ambulance with the detectives. She didn't tell Spencer that she had recovered as soon as she got to the hospital, and phoned somebody while she was in the hospital, and she snuck out the back door. She never told him that. She never told. As you know, his video was news, so it was going to be breaking news. And she talked about the hike, which got a little confusing because we're like, why did you get your daughter to say that she was home and that Gannon got home very, very safe that day? And when she got home, Gannon was home. Yes, he was. But we're not talking about that day. We're talking about the 27th on the Monday. We're not even talking about the hike the day before. We know he got home safe. And then people were saying there was 2 hikes that day. And that Harley went on the first hike that day. Is that true? Or is that another story? And they took the dogs, but the dogs got very tired and she had to take the dogs home. I don't know where this story came, but it got mixed up with the hike. So people are saying there was 2 hikes that day. That Harley was at the hike. But then she left because she had to take the dogs home or she had to go to work. And so she was at work the afternoon. See where it gets a bit confusing? So was she at the hike at one point of the day, or was she not? Or was she at work all day? But we're not absolutely sure which part is true on that one. I mean, Letecia didn't say her daughter was at the hike. She said, tell them you were home. And Gannon was at home when you got home. So we'll just leave that at that. This gets a little confusing when there might be two stories to the hike. But in the affidavit, it doesn't really say anything about Harley going on a hike that day. But like I said, not everything is going to be in this affidavit. So there's a lot more. And plus they said Harley, at that time when this affidavit was released and done and finished with 28th of February, Harley was not talking to investigators. She was probably knew her rights and didn't have to talk to them. And they didn't really pursue that because she was not a suspect. And she can willingly give information, but it might harm her or a mother at the same time. So she was in her right not to talk. But she probably has talked and gave a statement of some sort along the way with her lawyer or a adult with her while she's being questioned because she's under 18. And as far as the detectives are concerned, she has not done nothing wrong. Otherwise, she would have been arrested by now. Or maybe they don't have enough on her. Maybe they're still investigating her. But it looks to me like she is where she said she was at the time. Like the time Letecia was out on the 28th in the rental car around Perry Parkway or Douglas County. Harley was not with her. Harley's was on the phone at home, and they've already proven that that's where her phone was, that's where she was. But she did get a phone call later, and she did go pick her mother up. The investigators do not believe Harley was present when Gannon was killed between those 20 after 2, within those 45 minutes or so, or even before Gannon's sister got home, because it was confirmed that from 8:30 in the morning until she left work at 16-15 hours, that was confirmed. That was confirmed. Those hours were confirmed. But that's the investigators saying that Gannon was killed within a certain time frame of early afternoon on the 27th, which they have got to at least try to prove that. At least. I mean, who can be certain that's when that happened? Unless no one in the house, which obviously no one in the house see Gannon. When Harley and his sister got home, they didn't see Gannon. They didn't see Gannon. They didn't ask where Gannon was. They didn't see him in the bed. They didn't see him in the bedrooms. I know Letecia said that Gannon had gone out between 3:15 and 4 o'clock. But even if that's what she said, Harley and her sister, Gannon's sister, would have went around the house at some point. They never saw him. They never noticed anything odd. So that's probably what they got asked too. I mean, yes, Letecia said he was gone, so where was he? Where was he? Well, we get to Letecia's vehicle, her Volkswagen, her vehicle. Now, when she came home by the neighbor's surveillance camera, her car her front end was facing the garage. But when the detectives came, or the police came at 10 o'clock at night, after she had reported him as a runaway, for some reason, her car was now facing, her back end was facing the garage, also in the garage. So when did Letecia turn her car around? This has to be on surveillance camera. It has to be. They've got everything else on camera, on video. They've got Gannon's sister playing outside. They are going to have Letecia turning her car around and backing it in to the garage. Now only they know what time she did this. And this is when she put him in her vehicle. But it was done way earlier, before the police came to her house at 10 after, 9 minutes after 10, around 10 o'clock at night, that night on the 27th, 2020. Now, when Harley came home from the store with her sister, was Elle's truck parked on the road? If so, T had to have moved it. We all know T was saying that she never backed that truck up that day. She parked it on the street on that day. But yet she says the video shows Gannon coming home, and it is parked in the driveway, which she said she never does or didn't do. It's just another story, she said. It's just another confusing statement that she made, conflicting statement. So Harley comes home and she parks her car in the driveway. So at some point, T had to move the truck. She also had to turn her car around and back it into the garage. Now, we don't know what time that happened, but the police do. because they got it on camera. That's more video, that's more evidence that they are not releasing. So we can't pinpoint a time, but you know it happened. You know it happened. There's talk of a brown suitcase missing from the garage. T did mention a suitcase, a brown suitcase at that, and she did mention cardboard box. Blankets and sheets are missing, and there seems to be no apparent reason for the sheets and blankets to be gone. Even if T said there was an attack, the intruder, the rapist, you know, Quincy, the Mexican carpet guy, she never said that they took the blankets and sheets with them, did she? So where did they go? She had used the washing machine at some point. I don't know how many days later, the next day, the 28th, the 29th, but apparently a brush of some kind, a Brillo brush, or, you know, one of them wooden brushes, was found or was kept, and it had been washed in the washing machine, and there was fibers in there from the carpet. So you know something that she was cleaning with went into or was cleaned and kept and not thrown out. Now, if it was some kind of brush that you clean carpet with, if you threw everything else away, why didn't you throw that away? Why throw the sheets and blankets away when you don't throw that away? So that was just, I just don't understand why you would keep certain things, but maybe that was because she forgot about it. And I'm not even sure if it was the washing machine that they found it in, or they just found it on the brush itself, or the brush was put in the dishwasher. It might have been put in the dishwasher, I'm not sure. It probably was the dishwasher it was put in, and people, I think I heard people, or read people commenting and saying, ooh, who would put that with your dishes? So I think it was in the dishwasher that this brush was found with carpet fibers on it. So they say this was used to clean blood off the carpet. And they do say there was a fire. But could it have been deliberately done by T? I mean, yes, there's a video out saying, I freaked out. I'm going to ask you one more time. You didn't do that deliberately, did you? Pinky promise. But it doesn't actually say, you Pinky promised me you never knocked that candle over deliberately. So it could have been, Gannon could have been getting yelled at for something else, and it wasn't even the candle. And like I say, candles these days, you knock them over and they go out. It doesn't take much for them to go out. And maybe some wax will be spilled on the carpet. And most carpets these days are fireproof. They are not easily set on fire. They might smolder a little bit, but they don't burn into a massive fire. They may smolder. So there's a lot of safety things, materials that are used these days, like your furniture. They don't go up in a puff of smoke anymore like they used to. All the materials that you get are kind of are like fireproof now. Not like they won't burn, but like I say, they just they give you time, a little bit of time to smell it first before it's engulfed. Do you know what I mean? Fire protected, but they will burn eventually. She did mention about the smell of the smoke. She did Google. She Googled a lot of stuff, so she could have been just Googling it for the sake of it, if you ask me. Because I'm like, if you've just had a very scary experience and your home was full of smoke, yet were the fire smoke detectors set off? That's what I'm asking. Because if your house is smoldering with smoke and your whole house smells of smoke, your fire detectors should be on it and should start going off. Which they may have. But I didn't hear her say that the smoke detectors were going off from the smoke. Because apparently there was a lot of smoke and like choking. And another thing, if you have just been choking from the smell of the smoke and you're trying to get rid of the smell of the smoke, would you have your kids down in the basement still? Why is your child in the basement breathing this toxic stuff? You wouldn't be in the basement. You'd bring your kids up, shut the... I don't think there's a door. I think it's open. They don't have a door to the basement. I think they just got stairs. There's no door. It's all open. I don't like that. I like to have a door. But there's no door, so the smell came up easy. So I just wouldn't have my kid in the basement smelling that stuff. I'd bring him upstairs and he could sleep in his sister's room and shut the door and air out the basement. Open your windows a little bit. Put a fan. You know, anything that you got, fans or anything. Put the air on. Blow it out. Suck it in. Whatever you got to do. Open your doors for a little bit. There's lots of things you can do. But no, Gannon had his picture taken early in the morning in the basement. So was the fire or the smoke that bad? Was it made up? Did it ever happen? I will leave you with some Google Earth map. I took a few little videos of. It gives you a picture of where T had gone during the time she had disappeared, in the locations in Douglas County, on highway, on Perry Park, the back roads of 105. This road is country road, dirt road, in the middle of nowhere, farmland, lots of land. You are like in the middle of nowhere. Now, at one time on the 27th, she said that she got lost on 105. She had to get off on some road because there was some accident. Don't forget that story. There was an accident on the freeway or some road, and she got lost. We don't know how long she got lost for, but like I said, I find it very hard that she got lost anywhere. I said that at the beginning. I just couldn't understand how she could possibly really get lost. Now, she took these roads where there's no lights at all, in the dark. Whatever she was doing there, she knew exactly wherever she put something, put Gannon, put the suitcase, threw something out there, she knew exactly the spot. So this just gives you a picture of the daytime, what it's like in the daytime. Now we know what it's like at nighttime, pitch black. Maybe a few lights coming from passers-by in the car, in the vehicle, or from the homes or businesses around there. There is lots of wildlife around there. I don't know, people say there's, I don't know, coyotes, bears, mountain lions, you know, I don't know, snakes. I don't know what kind of wildlife is out there. So this just gives you a little idea what it's like out there, and just picture it black, pitch black. Okay guys, thank you very much for stopping by, and don't forget to like, thumbs up, sub to my channel, and press that notification bell, and I'll see you in the comments.